What has been your favorite transaction so far as a realtor?
Let me preface this by saying I've had a lot of really good experiences, and I think I'm probably a rarity in coming up with one that wasn't good was actually very hard.
Mm,
I've been very fortunate with the people that I've worked with and transactions and whatnot. But and it was hard to pick my favorite because there have been many who are really good. So I'm gonna go with my very first one. And several reasons, I suppose. Number one, it was a friend of mine who I was teaching with at the time. So I had gotten my license in November of 2019 while still being a teacher and fully planned on finishing that entire school year and then jumping into real estate after the school year ended. Well, then March of 2020 comes around, we wind up pandemic, everybody shut down. So my friend Alex had found out that I was a realtor. He hit me up in January. I was walking into school one day and he's like, "Hey, I need to talk to you." I was like, "Oh, you want to sell your house?" He goes, "As a matter of fact, I do." I go, "Wow, okay." So Alex and I started talking, and then, because we were teaching, there really wasn't anything going on. Well, then we get into lockdown, but as realtors, we were essential. So we could still go out and look at houses. So
mhm.
Alex was like, "Hey man, you want to start going to look at houses?" I'm like, "Sure." So we start going to look at houses. And so here's where the favorite part. So he and his wife, the house he was going to sell was his. He owned it before getting married. So all of that was in his name. Not super important to the story, but it's throwing that in. So we're out looking at houses with Alex and Kelly, and we get to this house in Martinsville. And we walk in the front door, and there's a big S on the wall, decorative thing, no big deal.
Mhm.
And we see the last name, and that was weird. So we start looking at pictures on the wall, and the person selling this house was a dude that we taught with. And it was like, holy crap, this is
What?
this is Willie's house. And he was like, oh my gosh. And they had a ring camera too. So Willie had seen us on the ring camera. So have no clue that all was gone. Okay. So then we walk around the house. Really nice house. And it's old. I mean, it may be 100 years old. And Alex he no longer is, the tech ed teacher at the school. So essentially the shop teacher.
Okay.
So dude can fix anything, not scared of anything. So, we had the home inspection. This is actually jumping ahead, but I'm going to come back. We had the home inspection, but he hardly asked for anything. He just wanted to know what it was he had to fix.
Right.
And if there was anything, probably like major structural,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
But as far as scared of anything, he was not. So anyway, so we go through the house, love it. We come out, we're standing in the parking lot or in the driveway, and Kelly says to me, "I think God wants us to have this house." And I said, "I think you're right." And so we went, uh,
Quick,
and
quick interjection. As a realtor, is there ever a time where you say, "No, I don't think God wants you to do this"?
well, that was my first transaction.
Yeah.
So there probably
It's
isn't going to
hard to
be.
be.
Are you sure?
I'm not going to argue with that guy. Yeah.
So we write an offer.
hmm
Well, wouldn't you know it, we get beat out.
Mm.
And so within a couple of days, we find another house, write the offer on the house is now in Whiteland. Offer gets accepted. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. I got my first accepted offer. And uh, the side story to where Alex fixes anything, they also have their own personal business where they make stuff out of wood, decorative things out of wood for people.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, he's got all the big saws and all the equipment, right?
Right.
So he messages me the next morning after their offer is accepted. He goes, "I don't think we can do this house." I was like, excuse me? He goes, "Yeah, I was looking at the HOA documents and you can't have an at-home business according to the HOA," which is a thing that some HOAs do have. And if you owned like a haircutting business, which would be great for you,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Lucrative.
uh, you could do that in your basement. No one would know, right? But Alex running this business out of his garage with loud saws all day, big vacuum cleaners, all that kind of stuff. Like, there's no way he's going to get away with that. He goes,
Right.
well, yeah. He goes, I got to back out of this deal. I was like, well, all right. So here I am, very first transaction, got my first accepted offer. The very next day, I'm writing my very first mutual release. And I'm feeling terrible because I don't know not to take this stuff personally anymore, right? So I'm like, oh, so I'm feeling awful.
Hmm.
And the transaction coordinator at Scott Smith's team, she's like, this happens all the time. She goes, it's not a big deal. I'm like, okay. That afternoon, Alex messages me because Willie, the dude who was selling the house in Martinsville, was texting him and he goes, dude, I think our deal is going to fall apart. Are you guys still interested? I was like, oh yeah. So I start communicating with his realtor, who happened to be his sister or sister-in-law. And, within like a day or two, they had gotten their mutual release. We swooped in with our offer. Boom. And it gives me chills every time I talk about this story because I always think back to what Kelly said in the driveway, that God wanted her to have that house.
Mm.
And here it was, that it all worked out like it
Yeah.
was supposed to.